final class today is with superstar baker and author of the Bread Bible, Levy Beranbaum. The recipe, 10-grain torpedo bread.
When you think of multi-grain bread, you probably are imagining those limp loaves that you get in the supermarket. But this multi-grain bread is crunchy and delicious, and also it's really easy to make. It has 10 fabulous grains, and we're going to begin by making the starter. I'm using bread flour. Just 3 ingredients go into the starter: malt for flavor, or you could use honey or sugar, and the instant yeast. And that gets added right to the dry ingredients, no proofing necessary. Room temperature water. And then this is whisked for about a minute or two to incorporate air into it, but also to make it begin to incorporate all the moisture evenly. And this is the first thing that you do the day before, the night before you make the bread. And when it's smooth and bubbly, simply cover it with plastic wrap, let it sit for about an hour, and then refrigerate it overnight. And this is what it's going to look like when it's given that treatment. You can see how alive it is, full of bubbles. The next thing is to start soaking the grains, and that's also done the night before because they take at least 8 hours to soften. So I'm starting with a tablespoon of each of these, and this is toasted sunflower seeds, toasted pumpkin seeds, the bulgur, toasted soy nuggets, steel-cut oats, polenta, millet, cracked wheat, and steel-cut barley. Just stir them together and then let them soak in the water. And you'll see that it looks like a lot of water, but it actually absorbs completely into the grain mixture. If it doesn't, just add whatever remains into the dough. Thank you. And this is after sitting overnight. It completely absorbed, and you can see it's a nice, moist texture that's going to be added to the dough after it's mixed. I love making dough in the food processor because it's so quick. It's unbelievable. Plus, it comes out just as well, so it's really the way to go. Start with the bread flour. I have vital wheat gluten that's going to give better structure to the bread because the grains have a tendency to cut through the gluten strands. Instant yeast, which again is so wonderful because you add it right to the flour, so there's no danger of killing it with water that's too hot. And I'm going to process this for a few seconds before adding the salt, because the one danger that yeast has, aside from water too hot, is direct contact with salt, because it would tend to kill it. Yeast loves sugar, but it does not like salt. So already it started, the food processor is so quick, it only takes that long to protect the yeast. And now, when you use a food processor, you start with the dry ingredients and then you put the liquid on top. It's just the reverse if you're using a mixer. Get all of it in because this is the stuff that is giving the flavor. And I use the steel blades, not the dough blades. And this takes about 45 seconds once it starts coming together, which is really quick. If you have a processor that has the dough button, press the dough button, because that way if it starts overheating, it will stop. Otherwise, just put it on and you will see that very quickly it starts coming together. And then in 45 seconds, you'll have a nice elastic dough. And you can see that the dough is completely cleaning the bowl. And normally I would let it rest for a few minutes before adding the seed mixture, but I want to show you how stretchy and how the gluten developed so beautifully. And it should be a soft, moist dough. If you want the seeds to stay whole, take it out and knead it in by hand. But I like it sometimes integrated completely into the dough, and it's so easy to do in the food processor in just a few seconds. And this way you get all the flavors, you get some of the textures, but you don't get the whole seeds, like you don't see the whole pumpkin seeds anymore. And I can still see all the grains. It's not that they've been pulverized, but they've certainly been made smaller. Now I've sprayed this container or greased it lightly. And now I'm going to pull it out, and you can see it's very wet now and sticky. But when it sits and rises, all the water will absorb evenly, and it will just be barely tacky to the touch.